Please be sure to check out part 1 of this 3-part video series as we look at streamer fishing tactics for woolly buggers in various river features. So the next thing that we're going to have a look at is simply nymphing with the same setup. You leave your swivel and your 2 woolly buggers, and we're going to go about 2 feet above the swivel. And we're going to take the strike indicator tool and we're just going to hook in and make a little loop like that. Pull down the little plastic sleeve and you're left with a loop, and we're just going to take some wool and we're going to put it inside there, and we're just going to pull that tight. And that is how easy it is to attach that indicator, and you can just as easily remove it. We've got a gravel trough along shore, and this is a perfect place to focus with the nymphs. And we're going to focus right along the seam line, which is about a rod length out, and that tapers in towards shore. And as that tapers in, it goes from about 5 or 6 feet deep down to up to about 3 feet depth. We have a gravel trough with a really nice bit of choppy surface, and that indicates a depth change in the river, as well as a likely subsurface gravel ledge or maybe some broken rock on the bottom. And those are places that trout absolutely love to hold. The great current break, as well as a good influx of current and food. So we're going to focus on that, and I'm going to bring my indicator up my leader so I can fish a deeper depth. So when I added the indicator to my leader, I only started about 2 feet above the swivel. Obviously this is about a 5-6 foot trough of water in this trough. So what I'm going to do, and it's this simple, is just pull my indicator up my leader until I'm about 4 or 5 feet above the swivel. And now I'm simply going to cast upstream and let that drift naturally dead drift back towards me. Maybe let it swing out on the bottom end of things and give it a couple twitches, some life as the nymphs raise up out of the depths. Okay, so the simplest thing to do when nymphing is just make sure that you just cast upstream, get your indicator and flies right into that seam, and just let it drop. Now, as it comes downstream, because I'm on the inside of this seam, I have to do a little bit of a mend and just keep that indicator in the seam line.
Right on.
So the real important thing is to pay attention to which fly the fish eats. It gives you an idea of how deep you have to be and which color that they're targeting. So one of the beauties of this situation is this is a trout magnet, a trout factory. And I'm targeting kind of at that angle into shore, pretty much the first 3 rod lengths out from shore and in. And I can work back and forth in a couple 2-4 foot increments, going right to left, left to right, and come back. And this 80 yards of shoreline here could, if the fish are on, legitimately take me an hour, 2-3 hours, depending on how much action I have and how deep and all the things I have to adjust. If the fish are on, you're going to get a lot of fish here. If they're not on, this is a prime spot. Why would you want to go anywhere else in the river? It's kind of a U-shaped trough right along the shore with dancing water, current breaks, overhead cover. It is a brilliant spot, and the fish are definitely here. All right, so I've worked my way up about 30 yards from the bottom where it was really deep at the back end. As I come forward, the water speed is picking up, the surface is a bit more dancey, and through my polarized sunglasses, I can see that the color change has gone from a deep green back here. Now there's some tea colors, that light brown color is starting to appear. That tells me I'm in shallower water. I'm probably between about 18 inches and 3 feet deep from out on the main seam right into this heart here. So all I'm going to do is, again, take my indicator and drop it back down my leader to maybe 3 feet to the bottom fly.
Right on, hey?
Yeah.
Right in that zone you're talking about.
Yeah, a little shallower, right? So the really neat thing is, again, that if you pay attention, that fish also was caught on that lower fly. That's a nice little rainbow.
Absolutely.
Just gonna let that go. Wicked. Okay, so I think the point there, we've established that the dead drift nymphing works. This fly up here, is it because of the swivels, you know, scaring the fish away? No, all it is a depth thing. Those fish are right on the bottom in cold water. We're in a, you know, it's 5 degrees Celsius, which is what, about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And those fish are just sluggish on the bottom, and that's why they're taking the bottom fly. And again, that came as a result. I knew that I was coming up the shelf in the trough into shallower water. I simply changed the depth of this indicator. Again, deeper water, shallower water, and I can adjust, make sure that that hangs those woolly buggers at the right depth and just dead drift back downstream. So now that we've nymphed our way all the way to the top of the run, well, it's not over. All we have to do is take that indicator off by reversing, take that wool out, take the little plastic sleeve off, and guess what? Now we're right back to our streamer setup. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cast across and let it swing down through, pulse, jig, and that'll cover a different retrieve than the dead nymph back towards you. Now we're gonna cast across, pop, 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 jig, and see if we can get a bit more of a faster action response from the fish. And we're just gonna walk our way down. Okay, so what we have right in front of us, we have about 2 rod lengths from shore to fish in another gravel trough. And we have a steep angle of gravel that comes into the river, which indicates you have a steep drop off, which means about 18-24 inches offshore you have a depth change. And those fish are going to be nosed into that depth change. So we're going to, once again, nymph our woolly buggers right along that edge, and maybe another rod length out, which will put us between about 3 feet depth and 5 feet depth of indicator nymph fishing with our woolly buggers. And this again is a prime spot because it's all broken water. There's a drop off going that way, and as the water comes in this way, there's also broken waves and drops and depressions in the gravel and hidden rocks that we don't see, causing all that dancing water. That's prime habitat, and from here up to the point, that's about 80 yards again, and I bet you this is just chock-a with fish all the way up.
Please be sure to check out part 3 of this video series as we look at tight line nymphing your woolly buggers in various river features.